Hey, Hiker Gal, what's happening?
Nothing much. How are you?
I'm good. I was just hanging out in another space and realized it was time to start ours, so here we are.
Yep. And I was out earlier and it's like, oh my gosh, I gotta rush home. So here we are.
Yeah, I think it's earlier than we usually do it. I think we usually wait till I don't know, I think 4 o'clock my time or something like that, usually on Monday.
Mhm.
But I think this will work out good.
Oh, I think so too. Definitely.
So, did you have anything you want to go over? I mean, did you want to discuss any of your experiences from the week or anything like that to start off?
It's been pretty chaotic, to say the least. It seems like I had like a week off or 10 days off, and then it kind of ramped up, but it's been pretty intense. I'm definitely looking forward to the spaces that you and Ulrich have coming up with both Heidi Hollis and what's the other gentleman's name? Gillis. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Just based on what happened to me, and then I woke up with a nosebleed this morning. So it's been something every just about past few days. So that's about what's going on with me. How about you?
I'm doing okay. I had hit a little quiet period. It's funny because I'm in a chat with Tom with Montauk. Tom Montauk. His last name's not Montauk, but everybody knows him by that. And he reached out to a couple of us and said, "Hey, what's going on? Are you guys quiet?" And I myself was quiet and he was finding himself quiet and he said, "Well, that's usually the calm before the storm." So yeah, it's interesting that you were quiet as well. That's kind of interesting. I mean, it's just a small, tiny little data point. And then I woke up with a bruise on my leg, on my knee, yesterday or the day before, I can't remember. And and it's accompanying interesting memories from the night. So yeah, maybe that quiet point is over now. Do you want to talk about any details, or do you want to leave that for yourself?
No, I'm I'm actually to a point now where I have gotten past my own shock. Um, because this one, because I told you about it and it was pretty intense. And this one really just really it really scared me. I really I was pretty terrified on this one, and it had to do with a, for lack of a better term, a demonic entity. It was in the astral realm, and I'm just gonna put it out there, and you know it is what it is. But I was in the astral realm, and a whole lot of us in the astral realm were herded up, rounded up, and taken to a dimly lit room. And we were like, I want to say we were in this room. It had a fireplace. The fireplace was going. It had wood paneling. It had like, I want to say like red velvet drapes that were drawn, but they were heavy drapes. They were drawn over the windows. You can see out the windows, and it was as if we were being herded into this room for safekeeping. There was what appeared to me to be an actual human guarding the door, telling us to be quiet, don't make a sound, don't make a peep. And we were all standing around, just looking at each other, confused. And I happened to see next to this fireplace, because I was facing the fireplace. And I see next to this fireplace this panel open up, and beside the fireplace now is a window with drapes. So in between the fireplace and the drapes, there was this small section of wood paneling, and there was a square that just kind of opened up, and I caught an eye of something. I walk up to it, and it's something akin to what I call the grinning man, but it has very sharp teeth, very evil eyes, but I only saw one eye. I walked up to it, I saw it. It did not see me, but it was counting. It was counting how many of us were in this room. I knew this wasn't a good thing. I got this bad feeling. I turned around to walk, float, whatever, over to the guard. And by the time I could actually get the words out, all of a sudden, these red demonic blobs appear behind all of us and are actually dragging all of the astral bodies into what I can only describe as hell, including the human. And it was like a sudden attack of all of these demonic entities. There was the screams from everybody is screams that I cannot even begin to describe, but yet you can't forget. I myself was grabbed from behind by one of these blobs, and it was the most terrifying thing I have ever encountered in my entire life, ever. And I mean, it makes um, my other abductions a piece of cake. It's a cakewalk. This was absolutely terrifying. And so I fought to survive because I knew that if I did not fight, that I would probably end up wherever they were going to try and take me, and that would be the end of me as a soul. That's the only way I can describe it. But I fought it back, I survived, and I woke up. Then it got me to thinking, okay, well, what happens when if this is a thing and people die in their sleep? You know, how when they do an autopsy on a perfectly healthy person, how how is it determined how they find the cause of death? Do they die of a heart attack, which would have increased certain cardiac enzyme levels, or would it even show any levels? And so while I was thinking about this, synchronicity is amazing at times. I ran across a David Pilates um, missing 411 interview with George Knapp, no, George Norrie, on YouTube. And the only reason why I clicked to watch it is because I'm into the missing 411 in regards to national parks, because that's where I hike. And he was talking about the headliner on the YouTube podcast was about portals in national parks. So that grabbed my attention. I'm listening to it. At the very end, he's talking about, David Paulides is talking about how coroners are coming to him with anomalies of a person has died in their sleep or under suspicious circumstances, and there is no cause of death to be found, none. And it was basically, some of them were basically saying it's as if their soul had been stolen from them, and there's no other reason for their cause of death, which I found very surprising considering I had just been thinking about that. So that was that one was a shocker for me too. That was a very interesting find for me. Um, but then I thought, okay, why was I attacked like this? What is it that caused them to attack me? And it's, you know, and there, you yourself had said that there were several, could be several reasons or all of the reasons. And, the one that I keep going back to is they just don't want me to talk. Whatever I'm saying is really not um, jiving with their agenda. And in talking with some of the other abductees as well, that have reached out to me, that seems to be a theme as well. So I think there's some validity to it. Uh, but I will not lie, this one really, really shook me to my core. Um, so I am just now able to, number one, talk about it openly, and number two, get back into the groove of being vocal about abductions. So that's where I stand. And then, the possible my lab the other night, and then this morning with the nosebleed. So that's where I'm at. That's what's happened with me.
Yeah, just that. That's it. Um, First, thank you, Hiker Gal. I know it's really hard to get into these rooms full of strangers and talk about the stuff we talk about. It sounds like science fiction to most people. Um, people think maybe people think we're crazy or there's some psychological reasons for what's happening, and that's their prerogative. But the people who this has happened to, several of the people in the room, I can look around and see them, and we all know exactly what you're talking about. So thank you so much for sharing. I do want to let everyone know that this is not just a two-person space. Please feel free to come up, share a story, make a comment, ask a question. A lot of times when we do these spaces, it's kind of an experiencer space, and people feel like they can't really come up and talk. It's only experiencers, and that's not the case, especially for today. So if you want to ask Hiker Gal any questions about her experience and she feels like responding, fantastic. So we did talk about this, Hiker Gal, and one of the things I immediately went to was some of my own incidents, and this is maybe an area that isn't spoken about very often. A lot of my own absolute terror from last year that people have probably heard me speak about the March, April stuff that was happening to me last year is because of this question. When they threaten to kill you, so that I've had at least 3 incidents where I knew if I didn't fight like hell, they were going to kill me. And this is something that might sound excessive or paranoid, but there's just a knowing that comes over me. And I know, okay, they are not playing this time. This is not a test. This is not to see what my skills might be. This is serious. And this happened to me as well. It's the same type of thing, not that same incident, but the same type of thing. In one of my cases, they literally said to me with spoken words, "This is how it was always going to end." And I knew in that moment, if I wasn't able to fight and get out of that situation, I was going to be dead. And that was the third time. Well, maybe that was the second or third time. Maybe I have 4 times. I'd really have to go back and look. But there's been a good handful of times where I've just known, okay, they're not messing around. And this is where the terror comes from, because we've talked now just about this briefly. And I've talked to others about this as well. There's an idea that there are certain times when they actually can kill us in this other realm. some people refer to this as the astral realm. For me, one of these happened during an outright abduction into another physical environment. Whether this is, a partial astral realm or not, I don't know. Once you get onto their ships and their ships phase out, I don't know where they go. So the idea that they might be able to kill us in the astral realm is incredibly frightening. A lot of people will say, "Oh, it depends on your intention, and your soul contracts and all this nonsense," that I just don't buy off on. So we can go back. So now you and I have had similar incidents. I've talked to other abductees who've been in similar situations, and then I'm aware of Carla Ruckert, and she was channeling the Law of One for quite some time. Now we have to remember that Pucharik was involved in this channeling. I don't trust it at all. However, she was making some progress with her channeling because she was threatened by a very powerful demonic entity. And this demon was making arrangements to actually kill Carla, and it was going to be in the astral realm while she slept. And so this is a thing, it's in the lore, it's in the occult literature. Um, I don't necessarily want to give it a power all of its own, but I think it's something we should be aware of, and we shouldn't pretend it's not there. And so it's kind of a fine line we walk where I don't want to give these demons, and there are people in this room right now who are laughing because they don't believe in demons, and that's okay. People who don't believe that demons are even related to alien abduction, and that's okay too. Those of us who have seen and experienced otherwise know better, and here we are. So I don't want to give them any more power than they ordinarily would have, but it's something we have to consider. And this is something that is terror inducing, to think that you could go to sleep at night and not wake up, not because you have a disease or some heart condition or cancer, or because you're 99 and you're old and you might have organ failure, but just because you've crossed the wrong boundaries. And these beings do seem to have some power. So it is terrifying. And it's something we don't talk about a lot. So thank you, Hiker Gal. Hiker Gal, do you want to comment on that at all before we get to Panama?
You know, I agree not to give it any more power than it deserves. But it does need to be talked about. I've heard others speak, including yourself, and, in talking to other abductees, that things like this have happened to them. And it's not that I wasn't unsympathetic or anything, because I totally believe you, and and I was always thankful that that has not happened to me. But when it happens to you, it takes on a whole new level of realization that this something is going on. So people need to keep that in mind. It's an experience I don't wish anybody ever to go through. And so yeah, that's what I have for right now.
Yeah, it's literally terrifying. So what I found myself in a Freddy Krueger type situation where, and gosh, I haven't even seen the movie in maybe 30 years. I don't even remember when it came out, but it reminded me of that situation where all you had to do is fall asleep and you're in their realm, and that's where they have the most power. I think they have way more power in their realm than they do in our realm. And so to think that you can't even go to sleep at night because they might snatch you and kill you, not just sexually assault you and cut you open on a table and torture you in that type of a way, but actually end our lives. It's terrifying. And so that's something that maybe people don't know about me. When you hear me talk about sleeping in a helmet for 7 months, it's because the very last words they said to me was, "This is how it was always gonna end." And I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that that was going to be my final minute if I didn't get out of there. So, um, yeah, it's a whole other thing. Panama, what you got? Welcome to the space.
Oh, hi. Yeah, I didn't even raise my hand. Just went for the speaker selection in case I heard something relevant, which so I didn't really come in with like a statement to make on this particular topic, but I always hear things that are the only thing I have relevance what you're talking about now is the only I had an experience, God, it was like a year and a half ago, where my soul was like pulled out of my body when I was sleeping, and it was pulled like sideways. It wasn't up, it wasn't down. It was really fast and really, just kind of scary. But I just voluntarily pulled it right back. Like, no, I'm not going to do that. So I don't know who was trying to summon me somewhere. But other than that, as far as experiences relative to exactly what you're talking about right now, that's about it. And I don't know who was doing it. I don't know who was trying to summon me or where they're summoning me to, but I just sort of yanked it right back, and it was quite a roller coaster for that to happen. But yeah, other than that, just keeping with the topic you guys are talking about, that's about it as far as I don't feel like I'm suffering a lot of astral. I guess technically that might have been an attack, or like I said, someone summoning me. And I guess the one parallel to that is, you had those unseen one Mothman entities in Chicago who people still see around Chicago and seen them for a couple years now. But when they came here, they contacted Lon Strickler's group of researchers, people he's associated with, and on his radio show, he came out and he gave out their names, their genders, all this information. And after he did that, there were, I guess, some occult type people listening in who then tried to contact them remotely. And they were, these Mothman type beings are more sensitive to that. So they had Lon go and delete that show because just by giving out their names, their genders, and everything, that was enough for people to remotely like tune into them, and they didn't like that. They engaged in some retribution for that too. They actually went and visited the people who tried to contact them to make sure they never did that again. Um, but that's just an example of how you can open yourself up to things without realizing it. And these beings are coming from another dimension and not realizing by just giving their names and like their genders, that was enough for people to try to summon them. Um, which is interesting because I heard that show before it was deleted, and I wish I'd wrote down some of their names. Not
Yeah, Panama, we might have lost you, but it is something interesting. So the other day I posted a picture of my dog on UFO Twitter. Actually did it twice, I think. And Inked asked me for my dog's name, and I didn't post the name. I actually told her that I would write to her on the side because there's something about having the image and having the name. And again, this might be something that sounds ridiculous, but get into the occult literature and you'll understand it is not ridiculous. And that can actually give other entities power over. And the last thing I need is somebody to do some friggin' spell on my dog. As ridiculous as that sounds, I do try to be really careful about that stuff. If you've never been taken out of your own body, as many abductees have been, it's very difficult to understand. But once it happens to you, you're never going to forget it. And any person it has happened to will know exactly what me and Hiker Gal are discussing here. We'll get to Diogène, and then I have a couple more questions for Hiker Gal. Diogène, go ahead.
Thank
Welcome.
you. Thank you, Fringe. Hi, everybody. I got just three questions, or one question in three parts. Um, what is your expectation from the first circle, would be the family, and what is your expectation, second circle, um, people like us, because, yeah, and the third circle from the society, civilian, or policemen, or church, or uh, doctors. So I'm sorry if I look like very, if you feel not comfortable with answering, for example, from the first circle, that I could understand that, from the family, it's very private, very intimate. but at least from the second circle that I'm part of, because it's very difficult to listen and to feel powerless and without because we want to help you, and sometimes we do not, because we understand you, but so that's the sense of my question. And the third one would could be maybe the more comfortable maybe, but I don't find I don't remember you talking about that, if you know what I mean. So what are your expectations, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Diogène. That's actually very kind of you to ask that question. And I'll go first, and then we'll let Hiker Gal respond as well. So I don't have a lot of expectations. I think you're also asking maybe how you could support us, how the community can support us, I think is also part of your question. I think
Exactly.
I think all we really ask is just to keep an open mind. So abductees are, I think, even different than experiencers because we're literally getting snatched out of our beds. It is against our will by definition. It is something we have a very, very difficult time mitigating and trying to protect us from. Imagine, going to bed at night and you could have an entire squadron of the finest law enforcement officers ever created, or, a whole special forces section right there with you in the room, and that they would be powerless to stop the abduction phenomenon. At best, we're able to mitigate it and put it off. So last summer when I was going to extreme measures of wearing the helmet and the camera and, scalar waves. I was doing everything you could possibly think of to mitigate abductions. They would come during the day. And so they don't give up. I've spoken to people very close to these non-human intelligence, is what we call them now. And it's unfortunate. I don't want to make abductees feel powerless because that's not a place to be. But the absolute truth is it's very, very difficult to stop and to mitigate. And so I don't want to put any unreasonable expectations out there. So this is the life we live, and it's something that is extremely traumatizing. I liken it to being a victim of sex trafficking. Imagine if you were kept in a cage, and every time the door opened, another perpetrator was coming through the door, and you were powerless because you were trapped like a prisoner, and maybe even drugged, etc. Maybe your family's being threatened, what have you. These are things that happen to abductees. So I very much appreciate your question, Diogène. For me, all I ask is that people in the community keep an open mind. Just entertain the possibility that we are telling the truth and that these things are actually happening. That this is not some psychological problem. We don't belong locked up in a psych ward, in a hospital. We're not hallucinating. These are not dreams. And that we are, especially as adults with a few years on the planet. I'm 55. I think, Hiker Gal, are you maybe about 60 or so? Um, that we have enough life experience and enough wherewithal to understand our own situation, and that we already know that this is not psychological. When something happens to me, it's not my first go-to. I don't think, oh, the aliens did it. I look for every other possible explanation. And it actually took me to retain 100% consciousness before I even accepted what was happening to me. So, Diogène, I think for me, all I ask is to keep an open mind. For every person who's not an abductee in the community, just keep an open mind and entertain the possibility we could be telling the truth. That's it. That's all I ask for. Hiker Gal, what do you think?
I'm going to expand off of what you said. I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I'll go ahead and expand just a little bit. In the circle, the very first circle is yourself, followed by the second circle of family and friends, followed by the third circle of community, and it expands on outward all the way up to county, state, district, country, and then the planet. But the first three circles, the first circle is yourself. I mean, you have to what do I expect of myself? I expect myself to be as fair and balanced as possible to determine, okay, is this just a dream, or did something happen to precipitate having this type of dream? Doing the self-assessment and everything. And then my expectation is to give myself some grace and to not be hard on myself for anything that happens. My second circle of family and friends, I expect them, what I expect for them is to listen. And it's not necessarily I'm asking for advice, because what advice can a non-abductee give to an abductee? Um, Sometimes there's just not anything. So what for me, I just expect them to just listen, let me word vomit, let me get what happened out, and then I can go back to my first circle and work through and process what happened. Now, not everybody is like that. A lot of people just don't want to, like, yeah, no, I'm not telling anybody. I get that as well. I totally 100% get that. But for me, I have a couple of outlets, and that's all I want. I just want somebody just listen to me, let me word vomit. I can process it better from there, and then I can move forward, and which I do. And so, which brings me to the third circle of community. And I'll be very specific with this, the Twitter, UFO Twitter community. Um, I am in agreement with Fringe that we just ask that you listen to what we're saying. I'm beyond the point where I'm trying to convince somebody that this is happening or anything like that, because either you're going to believe me or you're not, and I am okay with both. However, I would show a non-experiencer or a non-abductee the same grace that I would ask be shown to us insofar as their experiences. And it also boils over into my my own personal 3D life. There are people um, in the at my MUFON community meetings that I attend. They know I'm an abductee, and while they are not, they are very interested, and I'm more than happy to talk to them about it, because I expect them. If you're asking me, then I expect res- um, some compassion and some grace, to just listen, and you can make your own mind up from there. I hope that answers your question, Diogène.
Yes, thank you very much. And just to follow up, because Bridget, she was trying to reach out to Daniel Shian to make a class action. Imagine the power if you get some physical evidence like alien implants, my lab. Uh, I don't know. There is several. I don't have in mind, but a class action from abductees. Because there is maybe some human involved, and I think Bridget got a great idea, but she couldn't reach out to Daniel Shan. So that's my last thing. I wish really, it could be some recognition and also some, um, what is the word for that? Um, damage, some, I don't know, because Bridget, okay, but thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Diogène, and I appreciate you being an advocate for Bridget. She's an amazing individual, and I truly hope that she's able to complete the mission that she's on. I truly hope that Brigitte and or, other abductees are someday able to, get in front of Congress, get into a court of law. People like Bridget have a lot of documentation, and she can support a lot of what she's saying, which is unusual. A lot of people get out of these programs and they just don't have it, but there are a few people out there who do have it. And for myself, I think it's a pie in the sky type thing, but it's not really fair just to leave it there, because I truly hope with the entirety of my being that she is successful. And I think if she keeps at it long enough, she just might get a breakthrough. And I sincerely hope that that actually does happen someday. I think that that is probably a long ways down the line, although we do have um, military personnel getting pensions, disability pensions off of their contact with these UFOs. So it's possible. How much further is a stretch of being abducted? Because those military personnel could have actually been abducted, for all I know, during those contacts. Um, so I hope and wish the best for that. I'm not sure it'll be Danny Sheehan. I think Danny Sheehan, if he's sitting on any kind of a board for the government, might have a bit of a conflict there. But I hope that someone does step up and take these cases with people who do have documentation. Hiker Gal, did you want to speak on that before we get to Jad?
No, only other thing to say is that I think Bridget's mission is very important, because if she's able to do something, then the rest of us, it'll be a domino effect. I don't think, I agree with you. I don't think Sheehan is the best one, because it would definitely be a conflict of interest, just because he's on the board. You can't be an experiencer advocate if you are on that board, in my personal opinion. So we would just need to find someone else who actually believes us and help garner some traction on it.
Yeah, and so you have Bridget. There's a couple other people who have come forward in the community who have kind of faded into the background that I won't mention, who also have evidence. And then we also have Eric Mitchell. And so I think Eric Mitchell's case is, at least that I'm aware of, he, I think, has probably the most amount of evidence an abductee could possibly have, including witnesses and medical documentation, et cetera, et cetera. And I know he's still working to bring his case forward. Whether it ever ends up in court or not, I don't know. But just an experiencer like Eric, who has a lot of evidence, um, and he's working on behalf of all of us. So when people like Bridget and Eric are able to come forward with their evidence, and others as well, it is a domino effect. And at that point, there could be at least a believability. Because when it comes to this community, we are on the absolute fringe of believability. We have people who sit around in spaces all day long, still trying to decide if UFOs are even real, have no idea what they are, where they could be coming from, what their purpose might be. And so actually getting to the abductees is several steps beyond that. So imagine the amount of time that will have to pass before your average everyday person in this community even believes in abductions, let alone having proof and evidence and getting to court and all of that stuff. So I very much appreciate people like Eric and Bridget and other people who are kind of back into the shadows, who are trying to bring this forward. If you listen to Danny Sheehan, he says he could prove in a court of law, he could prove abductions in a court of law. I 100% believe him. The standard is not what everybody in this room might think. And I think he does have enough evidence to do that. So if he were to do that on his own, or maybe with the people he's already representing, that obviously would be phenomenal. Jad, welcome to the space. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm here. Uh, I've got some supportive stories in terms of demons. But first, I'll ask a question first, and then I'll get into that. I just wondered if either Fringe or Hiker Gal ever saw somebody that they knew or ran into later on one of these mass abductions, where there was, like what Hiker Gal was saying, like a number of people there in the same room. But I'll get into my couple, 2 or 3 stories. I'll go quickly. But the one, this is over a period of like 10 years. I'd have this repetitive experience. Haven't had it since. But it was repetitive over a period of 3 or 4 years, where I'd be laying down and there was like a pendulum, picture a pendulum, and I couldn't see anything, but it it made the sound effect like that. And like you could picture it going around and then coming back and coming basically right over my head, and would make a sound like something rushing by like that, and it would make you nauseated. And another experience I used to have, and you could just tell this voice was coming from a demon because of the kind of the quality of it. But it would just say something to me, at night, right when I was about to go to sleep. It would say something, and it wasn't anything in itself of consequence. It just was the idea of the sound of the voice, and it was a bodiless voice and that type of thing. But the other one is a stronger. Well, I don't know. They're all strong in their own way, I guess. And I've said this before, so I hope nobody gets tired of it. But I was going to visit my parents one time, and my mother had a brain problem, like hardening of the arteries in the brain or something like that. And so she was having hallucinations or whatever. And my dad told me that she was having a situation where a woman would bring this little girl over there, almost like dropping it off to be babysat or something like that. And she would see it. And my dad was telling me what she saw. And at the same time, I was reading a book, and I didn't think it was a dangerous book at the time at all. But uh, one of the things in the book, I think that it must be that this is where I read that, because I know it was around the same period of time. But they described what a demon could look like what would tip you off would be part of its body would be out of whack a little bit, but it would be subtle. But you'd be able to recognize it. So also though, I was in the same book. It was saying that you can take a question that you want to know and pretend like you have it between your 2 fingers and drop it in a glass of water and drink it, and then you will dream the question. And I did get that to work, but believe me, it wasn't a dream at all. It had all the earmarks of a projection. And then the second thing you do is, after you know what the question, after you've told them, projected the question to them, you get the answer in your 2 fingers, and you drop it into a glass of water and you drink that, and then the answer comes. Well, what happened was, for certain, I put the question in, who is the entities that come to see my mother? And so I did that, and the first time I did it with the question, I definitely rolled out of my body. I was out of my body, and there was all kinds of noise and racket and stuff like that, as I was going to sleep. And I've never, you could just tell it wasn't physical stuff. It was, in the spiritual astral world, I should say. So what happened was, I was walking around in my apartment, and two entities came in just through the wall, and one of them, and my dad had also said this, one of them was the woman, and she had like a overcoat or raincoat or something like that on, and a string tie, that you would tie to keep it close. And you could see that even though she was just made out of shadow, but you could clearly see that the tie where she had pulled it tight and stuff. And she had the little girl with her, and the little girl was lit up from the neck down with a real pretty dress on, but her face was orbed out like a dark or gray orb around her face, so you couldn't see who it was or get any more idea of what was going on. And so, you know, after I experienced that, I didn't do it right away again very quickly because I was thinking, man, that was some real stuff. I'm not sure that I want to do it immediately. I was going to think it over. So I ended up finally doing it one night. And this time, the girl wasn't there, but the woman was. And she wanted me to go outside with her where she was going to, show me what was happening and stuff like that. And I looked at her and I could see that her head was a little bit out of whack. It wasn't shaped completely right. And so, anyway, what I'm saying is, I told her not that I wasn't going to come with her. And as soon as I said that, she just completely disappeared. And I went back in my body because I couldn't help it. I really wanted to, stay out of my body, but I was forced kind of back into my body. And like my cat was going crazy. I'm saying this because of the support of sometimes animals are going to react like that because of the supernatural. And so I went back out and actually petted her, you know, but my hand went through her. I think I was still in my astral body. So then I just went back in my body. But the idea of this to me is like it's almost like a novel or a movie, where if you tie everything together, you get the idea that, you know, because because something happened of a demonic nature possibly earlier, that for that reason or other reasons all combined, that's what this was. It was like a setup, like I had that book and I read the book and everything, and then my parents at the same time. That is even more, you know, profoundly kind of insinuating that, like it was a conspiracy or something, because that all was happening at the same time. And it could have had, in other words, what I'm saying is it could have definitely had a demonic causation. So that's it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, thank you, Jad. I appreciate your support there. A lot of people ask me things like, well, how did you know it was a demon? And I'm actually going to ask Hiker Gal here very shortly, probably the similar questions. How did you know it was a demon? Is this the first time seeing a demonic entity type stuff? And also a question that goes to your experience, Jad. I think you were kind of trying to point out the synchronicity and, things happening simultaneously, perhaps. I'm going to ask you about that too, Hiker Gal, because I have it written down. So I'm super excited about these spaces coming up with Heidi Hollis. You guys have all been, a lot of you have been in a space with Heidi. Me and Tiff and Ulrich are going to be doing a space with Heidi. I think it's on the 24th. I'm super excited about that because Heidi has a lot of experience of just gathering the data points of the number of people who have seen these shadow entities, Hat Man, all kinds of different types of shadow beings. And then, of course, the association with the abduction phenomenon. We also have things like you were referring to, Jad. We have these entities showing up. We have the lady. We have entities showing up that look like ladies and then they turn into tall gray aliens, or like you noticed, Jad, that their head didn't appear to look right. A lot of times when I look at these entities very closely, they just turn into something else entirely. I am of the personal opinion that this is all related. I know a lot of people like to push back on that, and that's okay. I don't think, any one person has all of the answers, but I'm super excited to hear from Holly. And then we also have Nathaniel Gillis coming in. I think that's the 19th. Is that the 19th, Ulrich? At 4 o'clock. So Nathaniel Gillis he calls himself a demonologist, and he's got a lot of research and just looking at patterns, and he's also going to tie this all together. And just like on the abduction stuff, all I ask people to do is just keep an open mind. You don't have to decide, you don't have to take a side, you don't have to be in a tribe, you don't have to, plant any trees when it comes to the phenomenon, because as soon as you plant one, something's going to change and you're going to come across other information. All I do ask is, hey, keep an open mind. Could this stuff all be related? There's a lot of people who think it is related, so it's just listening to and considering for yourself. Hiker Gal, did you want to speak on anything that was related to Jad's story?
Other than the fact that I found it very interesting in the fact that, it's the idea, or it's not an idea, but the intuition of saying that, I better not do this. Yeah, because if your spidey senses are telling you not to do something, it's for a good cause. It's for a good reason.
Yeah, for sure. So before I ask you, Hiker Gal, is this your first time seeing a demonic entity, and how did you know it was a demon? I'm going to answer the question for myself. So a lot of people ask me, well, how did you know it was a demon? So I've had experiences with what I would just call an alien, or what ufology typically calls aliens. And then I've had experiences with entities I will refer to as demons. And it's something that might be difficult to explain until it's happened to you. And so I've kind of put it this way before, and I think it's just a simple explanation. People ask me, well, how did you know it was a demon? And I'll just turn right around and say, well, how do you know when you're looking at a dog? How do you know it's a dog? There's a lot of data points that allow you to know that you're looking at a dog. Um, and it's also a similar thing. So then the next question is, well, how do I know that this demon isn't just putting on a face that it wants me to see? Because they frequently do that as well. And so for me, I was getting to the point in the last couple of years where my experiences were coming very frequently. It was up to 5 times out of 7 every week. I was going through an extensive testing process on these creatures actually changing their appearance right before my eyes. And seemed to have been tested on whether I could see through their projections. And so I liken it to this. If you are taking a 3-year-old to Disneyland and you're an adult and you've already had your life experience and you've already come across many different types of situations, you go to Disneyland and you can see the person in the goofy suit, right? And underneath that goofy suit is probably a pimply faced teenager who's, struggling in high school or maybe through college, where your 3-year-old without a lot of life experience actually believes it's goofy. And so for me, once I was able to get that experience under my belt, they have a different energy. They have different intentions. They are just giving off a different vibe. And then a lot of the actual things that were happening with these demonic entities were quite different than your typical alien abduction scenario, where I would find myself on a medical table in some type of gynecological exam. And so there were many different data points leading me to these conclusions. Although I will tell you right off the bat, immediately, the energy that these beings put off is very different than the energy that comes off an alien. So that's my stuff that I have to say, Hiker Gal. But I would love to know, for you, going back to your experience that you opened the space with, is this the first time you saw something that you would characterize as a demonic entity, or is this have you had multiple experiences?
All great questions. I had to write them down as you were as you were talking. Um, This, as far as I can recollect, this is my first encounter with a demon. Then it goes into, well, how do you know it was a demon, right? Okay, so people hear me talk about spidey senses, your intuition, your gut feeling, whatever you want to call it. I call it spidey senses. Spidey senses never steers me wrong. When this attack happened, it was, and you can call it frequency, you can call it energy, you can call it a vibe, all of the above, you can call it even something else, whatever. But their signature was pure evil. But if it was my first encounter, how do I know it was evil? Again, I go back to spidey senses. When your spidey senses are telling you fight or flight, that tells you that it told me that it was evil. Then to see them, to see these demons literally attack us from behind, grab our astral body, and basically drag it away, and in a way sort of meld or merge with that body as it was being dragged away. That was pure evil. It was an energy, a vibe, a frequency that I have never ever experienced before. Um, and that's how I knew. I knew because when I was attacked and I was literally being dragged backwards, and as I'm turning around, turning my astral head around to look at what was grabbing me, I could feel it trying to not only drag me, but enter my body. And that's when my fight or flight kicked in, and I was doing everything that I could to get away from it, because I knew if it won, that was it. I would cease to exist ever. Um, and then you asked, how did I know that they weren't putting on a face? It's or changing an appearance. These were red gelatin.
Am I talking over Hiker Gal right now? Somebody please give me a thumbs up because I lost her. Okay, if I'm talking over you, Hiker Gal, I am going to actually leave the space and come right back in.
Fringe, are you back? Hiker Gal, we couldn't hear you.
Hey, Jad, you're the only one I can see as a speaker. Am I speaking over anybody right now?
No, and I kind of implied that before. I didn't mean to. I meant to say that I couldn't hear her either.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I went out, came back in, so maybe we lost her. So we'll see what happens. I'll see if anybody. I have no idea what's happening right now, but we'll figure it out.
Okay.
And thanks for giving me at least some feedback. Hiker Gal, if you just request to speak so I don't send you an invite. Okay, so I guess we might have lost her and it wasn't me. I left the space and it took me a minute actually to find it and come back. So hopefully we get, oh, there she is. We get her back in. The space was actually gone for me for quite some time, but we'll see what happens. And Jad, where did we leave off? Actually, I think I might be able to pick it back up. Here we go. Hiker Gal, can you hear me now? You can. All right, awesome. I feel like I'm in that commercial. I wasn't sure if I was speaking over you or if I had completely lost the space or if you lost the space, but here we are back. So I think we were just talking about how did you know it was a demon? And this is a really difficult question. It's very hard to answer, especially on the spot. I think for me, I did a lot of evaluations on my own experiences before I really started putting things into categories. I left my experiences very loose for quite some time. And, I just write everything down and kind of try to look at it from a longer eye, just try to look at it from a different viewpoint than just being right in the middle of the experience and just drawing conclusions on what's happening in that very moment. I really try to take a step back and just understand, or at least try to figure out how things fit into a bigger picture. Um, and again, this can be a very difficult question to answer. Well, how did you know it was a demon? For me, it's multiple data points. Like Hiker Gal mentioned, there's just an immediate recognition, and I think it's in the body. Like she was explaining, the fight or flight are just our regular antenna that is trying to keep us safe. The spidey senses, there's an immediate recognition of something that is malevolent and evil toward humans, which in this case, for me, the demons are different than aliens. Now, I'm a Christian. Most people know that. Many Christians will say aliens are just demons in disguise. Aliens are fallen angels. Those things could potentially be true. From my own personal point of view, I think aliens can be used as avatars for evil, malevolent beings, but I don't believe they are necessarily demons in and of themselves. There is a completely different energy coming off of them. There's a different task. I think they're working on a similar agenda, and I think they do work together sometimes on the same team, but I don't think that they are the same. And you know what? Maybe I will prove to be wrong on that. I don't know. But just from, I'm upwards of 300 experiences now with different aspects of the phenomenon, I don't think they're the same thing. And I think it can become painfully obvious to people who are able to see the differences, especially for abductees. So, Hiker Gal, let's get back to you and what made you believe this was a demon. I think you were saying something about these red gelatinous beings. I mean, that's clue number one, that it's not even an alien you're dealing with, and that's something else entirely. So, let's get back to your story.
Yes, I don't know what happened, man. I was rocking along. Um, yeah, they were literally red gelatinous blobs that actually were in the shape of like a person's shadow. It was like they're red gelatinous blobs, but in the shape of a shadow, and they brought their arms up to literally grab everybody from behind and drag them off. And everybody knew that this was something horrible, that it there's just there is no adjective out there to describe the frequency, or the energy, or the vibe that they give that it gave off. And your my fight or flight was kicking in because it did grab me from behind as well. And if anyone has seen the movie Ghost, did I go over this already? Did y'all hear that?
No, we didn't. I
Okay.
pretty early on.
Okay. So, if anybody has seen the movie Ghost with Patrick Swayze and Demi Moore, you'll remember the scene with the bad guy Willie getting killed, and these black shadow figures come up literally from the pavement to grab him and carry him off into hell. It was just like that. These red gelatinous blob things were literally dragging these astral bodies, and at the same time they were consuming, like merging or gelling with the astral body as they're being dragged off. The one that grabbed me from behind was trying to do the same thing. I could tell that if I did not fight for my life, this thing was going to merge with me and take me to a place where I would absolutely cease to exist forever. I would no longer have any consciousness, none whatsoever. And it was a terrifying thought that I would not have any thought processes. I would just not be anymore. And so that's how I knew this was evil. This was pure evil. And yeah, that's how I knew. And and you went on to ask how did I know that they weren't putting on a face or changing appearance? Well, they never changed form other than to form themselves into a shadow of the astral person in order to grab them and merge with them. They never changed. They stayed the same as they were dragging them away. So
Thank you, Hiker Gal. I know it's hard to recount this kind of stuff, especially when you truly feel like, I think most of the time, a lot of times in abductions, it gets to be old hat. We know what's going to happen. We know what they're about to do, and we know that they're going to probably bring us back. I mean, that's just a fact. We do have a lot of people who just go straight missing, but for lifelong abductees, it's the same process and it happens over and over again, with different variations, but a lot of times it's the same thing. And we know we're coming back. And these are just different types of situations. Knowing that your life was on the line and that you weren't even just going to die and maybe get recycled, but you were just going to cease to exist. And that's it's terrifying. And I would say to anyone so let's just forget people who say, oh, this was a dream. You weren't really in the astral realm. You don't have any idea what you're talking about. It's a psychological process. Forget all those people. What about the people who do believe that there are entities out there? They believe in these so-called aliens and maybe various other entities. They're not so apt to believe in demons. They like to believe in extraterrestrials. So for these people, why would any entity want to have an appearance of a red gelatinous being and want Hiker Gal to believe with all of her heart that she was about to be annihilated? So if we just take it on its face value, whatever these entities were certainly didn't have her best interest in mind. And so maybe we could just all agree that if this did happen as she's claiming it happened, whatever this entity was, I don't care if you call it a demon or an alien or the lady or shadow beings, whatever we want to call it, it did not have her best interest in mind. And it potentially, we don't know if this was Some people might say, well, maybe this was a hallucination, maybe this was a projection, maybe those people were not actually absorbed. Regardless, they wanted Hiker Gal to believe she was about to be absorbed and to be non-existent. So let's just take it on its face that whatever this entity is, I don't care what you call it. If you don't like the word demons, you don't have to believe in the word demons. Whatever it was malevolent and did not have her best interest in mind. And I don't care if you call it a demon or an alien or anything else. So, very interesting, Hiker Gal. Thank you so much for sharing that. One of my other questions for you was when we got to the part where I think it was the next day or the day after, and you experienced what I guess most people would call a synchronicity, and you came across the David Pilates information about the missing 411 people and how some people just die in their sleep with no explanation from a coroner. Now, we don't know what's happening, but whatever that sync was for you, it solidified for you. And stop me or just jump in if I go too far on this. It solidified for you that you had every that it was actually proper for you to be afraid of them annihilating you or for killing you in your sleep. So this is an interesting synchronicity. And I'm wondering if this was something, a good or beneficial type synchronicity to let you know, hey, be on your toes, they can actually do this. Or if you think this was just more of the fear that they might be trying to get out of you, of letting you know, hey, we can do this and we will do this type of thing. What do you think about that?
Okay, excellent question. Um, Maybe a little bit of both. I think that the because I did think afterwards on that question, and I even went so far as to Google, if someone dies of a heart attack in their sleep because they're literally scared to death, what would be the signs of one of those? And it ended up being, elevated cardiac enzymes and stuff in the blood. And then I thought, well, what if it's not like that? And it was a couple of days after that, I found that video. And I think it solidified that yes, this is a real possibility. This can happen. And B, guess what? If we got you, if we almost got you this time, then we could probably get to you again. And that realization is what has really rocked my world. The thought of being literally annihilated and ceasing to exist is a fear that and I don't even know. It's the fear of that possibility makes all of my other leash farming abductions with being chased by dinosaurs a piece of cake. Because that's one of my biggest fears is dinosaurs, and it has been all of my life. I don't know why, but it has been, and I think it's because of all of these VR scenarios of, loosh farming to feed off of that fear for me. But this was a fear that is, there is no other fear like this. And it is so hard to describe, but there is no other fear like this. If, and I think the answer is both, to be quite honest. And now I'm having to, come to that realization, which, I mean, I'm not totally out of that shock, but I'm not dwelling on it either. I have put some measures in place, and so far, so good.
Well, awesome. Yeah, I did mention this already. I'm going to say it again. This is what made me so terrified that I slept in a helmet for 7 months. Again, we go through some pretty horrible things as abductees. I have woken up on a table completely filleted open from my belly button down. If you want to talk about horror, that's definitely up there on my list of horror. However, these threats, and there's just a knowing that in that moment that they can follow through on those threats. It's just a knowing, it permeates the entirety of your being when they do these threats, when it's actually true and real and not just to scare you or to frighten you. There's nothing like knowing that they can get you. And again, it's like a Freddy Krueger scenario where you don't even want to go to sleep. Um, it's terrifying. I slept in a helmet for 7 months. My husband looking at me going, you're at some point, you're just gonna have to go through the door. And at some point I did, and that was last October, and here I am still. Um, so again, people can believe what they want to believe. Me and Hiker Gal are not here to convince you that demons exist or to convince you that these things are happening to us. People are free to think that they're psychological process, that they're just dreams, that they're hallucinations, that it's sleep paralysis or, hypnagogia, hypnopompia. People are free to believe whatever they like. Um, you can also believe that we've been on the earth for a very long time and that we've had a lot of these experiences and we're actually able to differentiate at times as to what's happening to us. So you can go one way or the other. We have plus or minus up here. Plus or minus, I don't see a hand, but sometimes people are on computers. Did you want to contribute to the conversation or ask a question?
Yes, yeah, it showed my hand up there. Sorry. Yeah, I was just thinking about this. I was, funny enough, yesterday I was rewatching the information about the family that saw the two 8 to 10 foot tall beings in the backyard in Vegas. And I guess an interview that I hadn't seen with the kid who made the call said that he felt that, it's called an alien, but in his gut, he felt that it was a demon because he was, when he saw it, he was locked in place. And it was interesting because I believe he said that he actually saw it breathing, which is, you don't usually hear much about Gray's, you know, breathing or anything like that. But he said that he was frozen. And when he did start to internally pray, he was released. And that's when he went back into the house to make the recorded call. So I was just wondering what everybody's thoughts were on that.
So, I followed that Las Vegas thing for just a short time. It's really hard to say whether that was authentic or not. I try to just take people's word at face value until proven otherwise. Because for me, I know it's a possibility that things happened exactly as he said. And I don't have any reason to think otherwise until, the debunkers come out, which is a fantastic thing. And it's something that is necessary in this community. Debunkers and skeptics are absolutely necessary. And if evidence comes out that that was a hoax or what have you, then that's fine too, because I'm not invested in it either way. As far as his own processing, I would ask, what experience does he have? And that's because most Christians, and I believe he's in a Catholic family, most Christians, Catholics, people raised on that side of religion believe that all of these entities we see are demonic. And I understand why they have that belief. I understand why anything from especially a spiritual type realm that we don't understand or don't recognize, something that looks frightening, it might even be giving off a malevolent type of energy that only some people can pick up on. I understand why people automatically say that must be a demon. So I would have to talk to him. What's that guy's name? I think his name is Angel, isn't it? From what I remember, his name is Angel.
That's correct.
Yeah, I would love to talk to him or hear an interview. What made you think it was a demon? And, kind of go from there. And he might be right. Or he might have mistaken, a tall gray as a demon. But I'm going to throw something else out there that maybe people don't think about. I mentioned this once already in the space. I have encountered reptilian beings on their own, average everyday reptilians. They don't have a great reputation. They're pretty sadistic, and they can just be straight assholes. But I have also encountered a reptilian being that had been taken over by a demonic entity. And so these aliens can also be used just as avatars. Just like if a demon can inhabit a person, a demon can inhabit an alien and use it. I don't know how long they can stay, but they can use it temporarily to get their agenda accomplished. So I'd throw that out there too. But I would love to hear more from Angel. I'm not sure he's been doing any speaking engagements. Was there supposed to be some show or some special coming out on that, plus minus?
I'm not sure. What I saw was from News Nation. I don't think it was that recent. I think it's just a video that I hadn't seen. But apparently he seems pretty. He doesn't want to do it for fame or celebrity, and he specifically mentioned that. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was really interesting. I think one of our own guys, I think Eric, went out there to Vegas and tried to interview the family. I was not I was not very much bought into the idea that the meteor or whatever appeared on the officer's camera was actually the same thing. But Eric had some type of information that radar had seen an object come over Vegas and then back over toward, I don't know, another area with a lake or whatever. I don't want to speak on it too much because I don't remember exactly how it happened. But I'd be super interested in hearing Angel tell his story. And I don't have any reason not to believe Angel at this point unless somebody knows otherwise. Hiker Gal, do you remember that incident? What do you think?
I do remember it, and there was something that came out on News Nation that I saw today. I don't know if it was. I don't know if it's an old reel or a new one, um, where they were dissecting the video showing where the entity was, and it looked like it was black, but they didn't know if it was
They're actually
cloaking itself or
yeah, there are
just
actually
what.
two of them.
Were there two of them? Okay. Uh,
Yes.
but have I been following it? No, not really. I just know the peripherals of it and just saw that clip today, which I found very interesting because the sheer height of the NHI. Um, that's what caught me first was the height that they were showing the clip, which was I don't know. I don't know. Could it be a demon? Could be, but it could also be a very tall gray.
Yeah, and it's important to point out that a lot of shadow beings, I'm not saying every single shadow being is an alien by any means, but at least some of them have been seen by multiple abductees turning into grays, talls and shorts, by the way. And it's just a technology. It's on their suits and sometimes it's on their belt. And it's just a technology that makes them look like they belong in the astral realm. And I think it actually lets them kind of travel back and forth really easily, whatever this technology is. A lot of this stuff is not magic. It's not supernatural. It's not hocus pocus. It's not even woo. It's just technology, and they have superior technology. Let's see, Hacker Gal. I don't know where we're going, but I see Christopher has
Fr-
his hand up. Do you remember
fr-
who's?
Yeah, Fry up is first, then
Can I
Christopher.
chime in? I have like a 20-second comment on this exact topic, unless Fry Up is also, um, if it's okay, forgive me, but just on that Las Vegas alien scenario, one little known aspect of that case, Angel did do some interviews. He talked to a couple people, um, and actually a month or so before the incident, this lady came up to him at a gas station and said, "Hey, the Lord gave me a message for you." And it was a total stranger. And she's like, "About a month from now, you're going to have a demon show up at your house. And you need to, when that happens, you need to go into your house and pray." So he actually received a prophecy about this thing that was going to happen. He's on the record saying that, telling this story. And then I believe this was more widely reported, this second detail, that he experienced poltergeist activity in his house afterwards, including crucifix flying off the wall. So he experienced some very kind of, you know, poltergeist and demonic type activity in the house. So I think those are important details in that case to be aware of. It definitely points to some sort of more than just typical technology type interaction.
Well, hot damn, that's good information. Thanks, Christopher. I think a lot of these cases end that same way, don't they? A lot of people have what they believe is some type of an alien experience, and then next thing you know, you have crosses flying off the wall, you get poltergeist activity. I mean, this is a pretty common story. Look at all of the hitchhiker stuff that happened just from Skinwalker Ranch. And so this is, that area of overlap that people are reluctant to see. And again, whether I call it a demon or Hiker Gal calls it a demon, and Christopher would probably call some things demons or not, it doesn't really matter. Some people think, oh no, words matter. Okay, well, that's my word. That's what I'm choosing to use. That's what most closely identifies with my experience is the word demon. But if that word offends you, or you have a problem with that word because you're, been turned off by religion and the many things that we have done in the name of religion that have been horrific, then, categorize it however you choose. It matters not to me. But what does matter to me is the overlap cannot be unseen. The overlap is there between what we call supernatural paranormal and the so-called alien abduction, or just alien, or just experiencers, seeing UFOs and seeing aliens. The overlap is too much to ignore, and to ignore it and say, okay, these are 100% ETs from some other planet, and then this supernatural paranormal thing is something completely separate. That's how I got to the age of 50 something before I realized all of my life experiences were actually related. It was because I categorized one thing into the supernatural paranormal that I had my whole life. I took one incident, at the age of 3.5 with so-called aliens, and then fast forward, jump into my 50s where I started seeing these aliens again in a conscious way. It took me a long time to realize and to actually be awake and to understand that I just saw a shadow being turned into a gray alien, and that this is all related. So when we separate these things out and we put them into their own little categories, I think that's why we miss so much of what's happening. Even Grant Cameron and I are on different sides of the spectrum as far as what the intentions of these aliens are. He said in a space not too long ago, you absolutely cannot separate the alien abduction phenomenon, or just the alien phenomenon itself, from the supernatural and paranormal. And so hopefully everybody tunes in to the Heidi Hollis space and the Nathaniel Gillis space as well, and just keeps an open mind, and just ask yourself, is it possible? And, listen to his evidence. Before we move on, Christopher, I know that you're a Christian. I would love to hear from your own point of view, whatever your experience is. Do you think aliens are demons? Do you think they're separate? Do you think there's an overlap? What are your thoughts on it?
Um, I think that they're related. I think that there's a lot of evidence that somehow the aliens and demons are on the same team, at least affiliated in at least in some cases. I'm kind of with you that they're related, but I'm not totally sure about the actual ontology of aliens. Are they a biological robot? Are they an actual biological person like we are that's just affiliated with darkness? Are they an interdimensional thing? Are they an angel that's fallen? I don't know for sure, but they're too often on the same team, and they're too consistently conveying a message. They seem to be very interested in people's spiritual beliefs and in trying to direct them towards a kind of new age paradigm. So I'm not totally sure if they're per se demons, but they seem to work together. From a Christian viewpoint, they don't seem to be on my team.
Yeah, mine either. And it took
And
me.
I'm going to have to drop down and make a phone call after this. So
Can I give you, before you drop off, sorry to interrupt, can I give you an angle you maybe haven't looked at? Because you're right, Fringe, we are technology in a greater technology solution. But at the moment, the carbon form that your
Hear
mind
me?
occupies
Can
has limited life.
can anyone?
Because we are on an
yeah, I
environment.
can hear her.
Yeah,
Okay,
the
can you?
environment we're on is a development platform. Did you catch me? Did you understand this?
I'm not sure anyone is hearing Fry up. I'm gonna Hiker Gal. Could you drop her and just try to get her back up? Because I don't think anybody else is hearing her. In the meanwhile, I want to address someone by the name of Valerie. Valerie, I'm not sure if you've spoken in space before, but there is a microphone on the lower left side of your screen. Just hit that microphone and you should be able to pop up as a speaker. I also sent you an invite. Sometimes that's glitchy. So Christopher, let's try to get Fry up back up because I think she was speaking to you directly, and we'll see where we go from there. All right, Fry up. Let's give it another shot. See if you want to.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Excellent. No, Fringe, you were absolutely right. We are technology. We are in a larger technology solution. Your mind currently occupies a carbon form, and that has limited life. So, why is that? We are in a development environment. And you can track that back to the Bible. And you will see, if you go very high level into that book, you will see science in the first 5. And then when you think about how long that book was written, how long ago, and you see what is happening now in Israel. And I heard today, people see it. The reason they're fighting over there is about a trade route. Not even religious. You know, there's religion thrown in and we all have a chat around that. But it's not really important when you look at your economic situation. That comes first. So you have to ask the question. This is what when I looked at this 2 years ago and found the answer, I'm like, my goodness, who wrote this book? It's predictive programming. But you aren't controlled because you were given free will to learn. But nobody can ever, call themselves an idiot for not learning this when we haven't really had the information to hand. We do now, and we're starting to see things happening that we didn't have visibility of before. And yes, people have had encounters with, beings that they don't understand. Not everybody sees them. Why is that? Why is it one or two see them? And, those questions you have to ask. Well, we have 2 sides to us, your sleep state and your wake state. And some of us have a glimpse into the sleep state and they remember parts of it in their wake state. But it's all muddled because you have a processor on board. And for any of you that understand technology, you can everything we have externalized on Earth today is a replica of you yourself and everything around us. So just start to look at it. If you look at your body, it's a machined part. Your mind occupies it. That's the king. We've taken our lead from doctors, but who told them? We say those people years ago had, better brains than us. Well, hold on, they didn't have any data back then. How did they? They were guessing. So the only way to work out the answer to this is to just not think about what you know. Don't let anything get in your way. Just blank your mind like a child. And the word I used to find the answer was, why do people assume I'm telling lies when I'm not? I never tell lies. What they assume is because they haven't seen it, you're telling lies. So start to think about that. Start thinking logically. And you will see that we are energy. It doesn't die. It has to change form. We are work units. And at the moment, we have to eat kinetic. And that is eating things from this environment that you shouldn't do. But we overcome it, but our bodies fail. And we have pain and struggle through our lives because, and it's getting worse, the more meds you take, man-made meds, the more you're destroying your body. But it's okay because your body rewires. So we're all dying right now, but you're not dying. It's a passage. Are we all going to go at the same time? I think we could do a global test and we could all rapture. But it doesn't matter because if we don't get there, because we'll go one at a time if we have to, we'll be able to simulate it and see if we could have done it. So think about the art of the possible. When at an atomic level, you are invisible, you are a gas, you are a solid, and you are a liquid. You have physicality, you have chemistry, but also the external world is too. But the problem in this environment is water and electricity don't mix.
Hey,
So that's why we have problems.
Fry Up,
But
thank you for your
thanks for listening. Thank you.
thank you, and thank you for your perspective. I think we lost Christopher, and I'm
You can actually prove it. It's not a perspective. I don't speak unless I have proof.
okay,
Thank you.
perfect. Thank you, Fry Up. We did lose Christopher, and I think he's not going to be able to respond to you. So thank you for your thoughts. I want to get to Taylor because Taylor's got to take off. So Taylor, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm actually at work right now, so I'm about to go back to listener. But in terms of our body being technology, we can, like astral project. I don't practice this, but the fact that we can leave our body just shows that there's a non-physical aspect to us, for sure. And also in terms of the technology of the aliens, it is really interesting how they can be like conjured and seance. So that's just something to think about. But thank y'all for sharing.
Thank you, Taylor. Yeah, that's important too. I don't think they can be separated, but that's me. And everyone's entitled to their own perspective and opinion. Again, we'll just throw all these into the soup and see what comes out. Hiker Gal, do you know who is next? Is it? I'm not sure. If you know where we're going now.
Yeah, Panama and then plus. I might have it backwards.
Yeah, hey, just wanted to we talk about the relationship between aliens and demons. Okay, my theory on that is a lot of people who have had alien experiences, or if they're hybrids or have some alien DNA in them, they're going to be more psychic, and that puts you on the demonic radar because you're easier to interact with, and it just makes you a more attractive target. You light up on the radar, so to speak. Again, going back to that experience that Lon Strickler's group had with the Mothman beings who came through and contacted them, and they're giving them all their names, and here's their names and details about us, and suddenly they're being attacked. And you think, well, if these beings are so old, older and wiser to civilization, why did that surprise them? Well, from what those beings have told people, they're a less violent society than we are in general, substantially less violent. So I'm not saying they're perfect. I'm not saying I'm just saying they don't have the kind of things in their dimension or in their society that we have here. Not that we're horrible compared to them. I'm just saying they didn't know they're opening themselves up in that way. They thought they could, here's my name, here's my gender, here's some details about me, and then suddenly there's some, people out there with a pentagram on their floor immediately, contacting them, and you're like, what the hell? But just getting to the point, okay, yeah, once you're psychically opened up or boosted, and man, there's so many ways. I mean, I had a MyLab procedure I've talked about before where, I had these cloned reptilian stem cells transplanted into me. And that was intended to boost my psychic abilities. And that's what the reptilians wanted out of it. But the human military, what they wanted out of it the human military just wanted to see could they increase pain resistance in subjects, whereas the reptilians wanted to see can we boost psychic abilities in people. So you had two different agendas out of the same experiment. But as far as me being demonically attacked and influenced, I haven't really felt that. But I think that I'm a bit fortunate in that way because I do have gray and reptilian and human in me. And as it was explained to me in a really nasty, violent, human MyLab interrogation, because I'm a tribrid, I am mentally more stubborn, and it's harder to influence me. I'm not saying that makes me superior. It just, I'm like a donkey, so to speak, in a bad way. I'm just stubborn. So I'm a little more resistant to that sort of thing, which is a double-edged sword. Being stubborn is not always a good thing. So I personally haven't felt like influenced or attacked, or just that one time when someone tried to yank my soul out of my body, and I automatically was like, no, you don't. But um, uh, but yeah, just some things I want to throw out there. Why people, once they have their psychic abilities heightened, and sometimes it's a hybrid thing where you've got some hybrid genetics, you activate these latent abilities. But okay, but then you're on demonic radar because they can see like a bright light from a long distance, and they're like, well, that's an easy person to mess with. So that's where I think the two things interact.
Hey, Panama. I've actually had a question for you for quite some time. I've never had the opportunity to ask it. So number one, Valerie, I see you now, and I'm going to mute your mic until it's your turn to speak. If you see the ability to raise your hand, go ahead and do that, and we'll get to you right after plus minus. If you could leave your mic muted for now until you're speaking, please.
Yeah, hello everyone. I don't know if
Valerie,
you can listen to me.
Can you hear me, Valerie?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but what we're doing is we're going to go to the hands. So we're going to be speaking in turn, kind of like you're in second grade. That's just
Thank you. I'll be so happy to share some of my experiences here. Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and mute your mic, and we'll get to you very shortly. Okay, Valerie? We'll leave you muted for now. And then Panama, I've had this question for a while. It actually just popped right back into my head. I'm going to ask it if you don't mind, and feel free to decline to answer. But you've mentioned this many times that you believe that you're a tribrid. And what my question is do you believe this because this is what they have told you, or do you have other reasons to believe this?
Well, I've got two reasons. Well, the first reason is I was told in that human MyLab, they even showed me brain scans of different hybrids they've done brain scans on, and they showed me my brain scan, and they explained how having reptilian and human and gray genetics, what it does to you neurologically, how it all kind of balances out and creates a more, uh, it creates a different effect. But secondly, as far as I've been told in many of my reptilian abductions that I have reptilian DNA. They left the gray part out. They never mentioned it, or they deliberately didn't tell me about it. But as far as why I know I also have gray in me, I've talked about this a few times before. When I was a little kid, I was only very specifically allergic to things that were bad for bugs. Off spray, mothballs. It was literally in my pediatrician file. Allergies, mothballs, and off spray. And when I was really young, I had pitch black eyes. I had, um, just I a lot of things that you would expect from someone who has a little bit of gray or a little too much gray in them. But also, I do have, there's reptilian aspects too. I've got, ichthyosis to a degree of my skin, which is makes me look like I survived a fire or something. But also, the lower body temperature and whatnot. But that's, the tribrids are not common right now. I've been told that, and it would make sense if they're not common because reptilians have their own hybrid programs and grays have separate hybrid programs. But we have reached a point where those hybrid programs are starting to sort of cross with each other from families just interbreeding. So you have people that have gray and reptilian in them. But just to give a long answer to your question, from being directly told and having various sort of physiological effects, that would line up with that. I mean, after my MyLabs really picked up like 4 or 5 years ago, I've talked before about how they accidentally cured my color blindness. They weren't trying to. They were trying to see if they could boost night vision. It's so weird because I saw a YouTube suggested video about DARPA and how DARPA is very specifically working on two things: increasing pain resistance and increasing night vision. And I had those two procedures done to me, but it was both with alien technology, alien stem cells, cloned alien stem cells, copied alien DNA. And I've said before that some of the stem cell technology they're experimenting with, with soldiers and looking for volunteers. They're not telling them that they're using alien DNA, but they are. They're using cloned alien stem cells, and they're using alien DNA. And I'm not saying this, about every medical technology, but I'm just saying they're deliberately not telling people where some of these experimental treatments are coming from. And it causes side effects. I mean, the stem cell treatment they did on me for months and months and months, I was waking up every half hour. It was a nightmare. I thought I would never be able to sleep more than half an hour again. But I eventually adapted to it, thank God. And then the thing they did to my eyes, I'm now way more sensitive to light, and I'm just getting pink eye twice a year. So there's definitely negative side effects to it, but not again. I don't want to get up too off topic, but I'm just trying to answer your question there.
Thanks, Panama. I appreciate it. Plus minus.
Oh
Go
yeah,
ahead.
thanks. Just really quickly, I just wanted to say that I did posted 2 videos in the pill. One is the interview with Angel from 4 months ago, and then also the other one, I think Hiker Gal, you mentioned this, is the New York Post video that has the very slow analysis of the 2 beings, and the one especially by the fence, the really tall one. You can see the movement between the slats of the fence, not just the head over the fence. And it's definitely really creepy, and it's interesting because you can almost see the cloaked nature of it, but they speed it up and they slow it way down, so there's lots of time for the viewer to really look at it. So just letting everybody know I put that there.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. I have not kept up in that story in a while, so definitely would go back to it. Valerie, welcome to the space. What would you like to share?
I am a little bit nervous to talk through here. Hello, everyone. I'd like to say first, my experiences are, this is the first time I think I am talking to other people different than my mother about this, than a person different than my family. So this is a little not easy for me. My experiences, to explain myself, my experiences are like 99% similar to the experiences of Fringe. That is the reason when I came across one of her YouTube videos on the internet and I watched it, maybe that night or the next day in the morning, I don't remember, I sent a message to her through Twitter X, because I haven't seen other case like that anywhere, in a book or on the internet. The only cases I have found after this started in my life that I think everything is real, it's Carla Turner. The cases of the woman inside the book Taken and the case or experiences of Fringe are almost identical to mine. The other things I can say is English is not my native language, so this is also going to be not easy to express myself here. But I want to do this to 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 help other people to understand this better. Because I started with these experiences more or less 8 years ago in my life, 8 years ago. And after all of this started 8 years ago, me and my mother, who is also an experiencer of this, like I think like usually happens. This is something that happens in genetic lines or families. I haven't found other case other than the case of Fringe with this. I don't believe in New Age stuff. I don't think the aliens are here to save us. I don't believe in um, the Brotherhood of Light. After this started 8 years, I have read almost everything I could to try to understand this, like desperate. I was desperate trying to understand this. I think this is very complicated to explain. So if I'm going to share something important, because I think this is very important thing for everyone, what I want to share is not my past experiences that, as I already have said, are very similar to the experiences of Fringe and to the experiences of the woman inside the book Taken of Carla Turner, inside the books of David Jacobs, maybe. So I don't want to add many more experiences like that people can read about. I want to talk today maybe to the most recent experience I have had. I had this experience about 8 or 10 months ago. And I was traveling outside my country. I was not in my country. And during that travel, I had at least 2 experiences that are extremely important and extremely I don't know if you're going to believe this, right? So I'm going to talk about the first experience. The first experience is that I was in a hotel, like that kind of hotels with a shared room with other people, where you sleep with other people, men and women. Like I don't know the word in English. Hostel. I was like in a hostel, but a big hostel. And I already made friends with some of the people in the room, because for me, it's something like a safety procedure. I want to know who are the other persons that are sleeping in the room in a situation like that. So I already introduced myself to those people. I am this person, I am this person. And they said to me, I am this person, I am this person. We had some talk for about a couple of days. And for my own safety, I was aware that there was this young guy, a young guy from a country different than mine. I am not going to say which country he was from, a European country. And he was in my attention because when he arrived to the hotel at night, he was doing drugs like smoking marijuana and stuff like that. So I was trying to for safety reasons to know if there was no problem with this guy. But this guy was a really nice guy. And the third night, the guy smoked pot and not in the room. He left the hotel and do that and returned and told us that he did that and he fell asleep. And this is the first time, and this is the important thing for everyone that wants to understand this, especially for those who haven't had these experiences and want to know what are these experiences from the people who experience these things. This guy, I I I saw this guy in the middle of the night when the other persons in the room were asleep. I I witnessed this guy to be possessed by a being, because if you other people don't know, or if people don't know, these beings, some of these beings or all of these beings or most of these beings, they feed from people, especially when they are in states of mind that are like a sort of trance. Sometimes it's drugs, sometimes can be other things, sometimes it's when we sleep, or we don't know exactly how. But I witnessed that this guy started having a really bad time during his sleep. And the guy woke up like in trance situation. He received a phone call, a real phone call. He answered the phone, and on the other side of the line, there was a robotic voice, a robotic, like mechanical voice that told him something that I couldn't exactly understand, but they were speaking in English. The guy is not an English speaker, but he speaks English as well. We were talking in English, he and the other people in the room, and he answered back to the voice on the phone, and he said to the being on the other side of the line, I don't want to do this. And the mechanical voice on the other side of the line told him in a horrible voice that is giving me nightmares even today, nowadays. One of the most horrible physical voice that I have heard in my entire life told him back, you have to do this. You have to do this. And the room was dark, but I was able to see in the dark what was happening in his bed, in the bed of this person. We were like 7 persons in the room. And as I knew what was happening, because this is not the first time that I lived something similar to this, I was expecting for the worst. And after the voice on the other side of the line told him, you have to do this, he opened something, searched for something inside his luggage. And as I understand, he grabbed stronger drugs like pills or acid or psychedelics or something like that. And the entity behind the line made him take that heavier drugs. And I watched this guy pass out and convulse, had an even worse time because he was not on drugs. He was being, the being on the other side was feeding from him. And this is a horrible thing, and I think this is a very important thing because the next thing I'm going to say, these entities, according to my experiences and Fringe experiences and all the few other cases that I think are real, these experiences, the first thing I can say is that these experiences have very bad intentions. There is nothing good about these things. The second thing that I am going to say is that according to my experiences and other things that I have seen or read that I think that are real, these experiences do many things. And among that many things, these things feed from our energy and from our sex energy and from different forms of, from our anger, from our sadness, maybe from our pain. And these entities are usually get inside the bodies of the people, and they usually do this and have done this in front of me, like in these experiences. They use people on drugs, and they do this, as maybe French know and other real abductees know, how they do this, when they do this. Oh, they have done this many times during my life with me there. I know why they do this and how they do this while I am there, because they do this when there are other abductees. Because we, the abductees, for them, we are a sort of thing that consider safe that we are there. When there is an abductee, they feel they can feed from other being near that place or in that room, because if something bad happens, they can, I don't know what they can do with us, but they think that they can make us like intervene or something like that. Because this leads me to the second experience, important experience on this last trip that I was there. In another country, in another hotel, I am not going to tell this story the long version. I'm going to use the short version because I don't know if you are all bored with this. I have no idea if you want to keep hearing about this. But the second experience, that is the most recent experience, in another country, European country, in another hotel, this was not the first time. This was other time in life that I've been in the same room with a hybrid being that some people have theories. I don't have theories. I have, as others, I think if you don't believe that, guys, we have a big problem here. Oh my God. This time, the hybrid in my room, because when hybrids do something in our planet, as far as I understand, because what I have lived, when the hybrids have a mission, they send them to places where there are abductees around, because the beings think or consider that we protect the hybrids, that we can protect that valuable thing that they call hybrid. Because abductees, we are not important for them, in my opinion. We are something of very little value. If some abductee thinks that we are special, we're not. But the hybrids are of some value for them. I don't know how much value, but they seem to have value. So especially when I travel or something like this, usually happens something like this. They are going to use me that I am in some place. They know I am there. So they like I understand that they designed the plan of something that one of the many hybrids that are in this planet have something important to do, and the hybrid can stay in that place, sleep in that place, because they know at least there is an abductee, me. Maybe there was other people, because in this other hotel shared room also there was 4 beds, mine, the hybrid, and 2 other people. I don't know if that 2 other people are abductees, were abductees. I don't know if they were not hybrids. I am completely sure. And the reason I am completely sure that this woman was an hybrid, that was Asian looking, completely human looking. There is nothing nowadays. There is no physical difference between hybrid and human. For those who are curious that they have big eyes, they don't have that. These guys, the technology of these beings today in our planet, in this reality, have reached the point that the cross between the races of these beings and our race, we can't distinguish between one thing of the other. So this woman was an Asian woman, old woman, like, sorry if this old woman, is this thing of the age is old for me, or is not so old for people, like 60 years old or 65 years old. Yeah, sorry, 65 years old, or said to like, not a young woman, not a teenage girl, not like 60, 65, 70 years old woman. Why I know she was a hybrid? It's even funny for me. The first thing that I can say is that when that woman entered to the room, I already was in that hotel for 2 or 3 days, or 4 or 5, maybe, for a long time. So I knew the other people in the room. They were kind of friends of mine. Like I said, with the other experience, one of the first things that I do when I travel and I share my room with other people is to make friends with the other people, to know who I am. I am sleeping. I can't sleep with people that can be crazy people, right? So when this woman entered the room, you feel it. I don't know if other people have had this experience. You feel that, but that was only the beginning. The scary thing is that when I felt that that woman was something, the next thing that she did was like, I don't know how to explain this, like the best way to explain this, but this hybrid things or whatever they are, they do not do the normal things that we do the way we do, like the way we prepare our bed to sleep, the way we respect the privacy of the other person. Like this woman left her luggage not near to her bed. She left her luggage near to the other bed, to the guy that was sleeping in the bed below my bed. They were bunker beds. Like if they don't know what limits are or property are, this woman opened her luggage, and from her luggage she took out things to eat that are like extremely weird, like things that are in bags, things that are like little fruits from the forest. She hang that things to eat. She hang it from a window. She opened a window and hang those things there. I don't want to talk about the noises that these things make, because these things, she spoke to everyone in English. She received a phone call and she spoke in Chinese, I think, in an Asian language to people on the line during the 2 days that was there. These things speak English, speak Chinese, speak other language, speak telepathically, of course, like many people know. Not this time to me, but other times I have experienced telepathic communications between these beings and me, and between them. They speak English and other language, but they make noises. You're going to think that I'm completely crazy, but she made noises like insect noises with her throat. Maybe someone here has listened to that horrific, terrorific thing, like a giant cricket or something like that. Something horrible. And she slept. When she slept, she prepared her bed like a sort of cocoon, like an insect sleep, not like or horizontally on the bed, but in a way that you really don't think that a human can do it. But the other thing is that the other two people in the room, the guy that was sleeping in the bed, she was in the lower level of the bed. On the bunk bed, there was a guy on, on top of that bed. And that guy was there already for a couple of days or 3 days. And the other people in the room and me and other people in the hotel that we already made friends, we all used to think that guy, that we used to be careful with that guy, but because that guy was like maybe not a good person, was a person that maybe was a drug dealer or something. I don't know how to explain it. That was a person that was in Europe for maybe not for the best reasons, maybe as part of some mafia or something. No? And the funny thing is that when this woman arrived to the room, this kind of guys that I am talking about, the guy that was sleeping on top of the bed, these guys have a very, very strong instinct to know, to feel when they come across a person that you really don't want to mess with the ferocity of that person. And that guy with that Asian woman when that Asian woman came into the room, this guy basically jumped from his bed, helped her with her luggage, like a dog wagging his tail. So I don't know if I explained this the best way,
I think
but
fine, Valerie. I think you did a great job. And, it's really hard to explain experiences so other people feel
yeah,
like they're there. I'm not a good storyteller myself. I just kind of, these are the facts, just the facts. So I appreciate that you found the courage to come up and speak today. I'm
thank
wondering,
you.
are you willing to take audience questions if we were to have any?
Yes, of course. I don't know when I'm going to come back to do this, because this was a coincidence that see this thing was online. As you know, this is maybe the third time that I exchange messages with you, French, and you are basically the only person I have talked with this about in my entire life. So I don't know if I'm going to talk about this in my entire life again. I don't see a point to talk about this. Sorry, but I see this as a really bad thing, that nobody believes it, nobody cares, and that is very advanced for humanity to stop it. So I think we are basically screwed. That and that these guys basically are going to win whatever they are doing. No? Of course, if anyone wants to ask anything, this is the moment. I'd
Okay,
be
so if anybody,
extremely happy to answer everything.
perfect. So if anyone has a question for Valerie, please come up. Please be respectful. And in the meanwhile, before I get to Hiker Gal, because she might have some questions for you, I was curious. You said that, they have a negative agenda, and I'm just paraphrasing. Why do you think that? Because we didn't get into any experiences, any of your regular, what we just call your regular, average, everyday abduction experiences. So why is it that you think that they have a negative agenda?
Oh my God, I don't know if I I can explain this without talking about the experiences of my mother that are horrible, and I don't want to. She, I, I
Okay,
can talk about that,
that's fair,
like
Valerie.
regarding my.
Fair. If we wouldn't just
Yes, the
total,
experiences of woman in these things are horrible.
yeah,
Um,
and to agree with
yes,
you there. And we don't need to recount them. I've had them. I've
yes, I am a male, so
had them. Yeah.
let me think about how to answer this question about me, because I am very influenced by the things that my mother has experienced as a woman, that are horrible things. But regarding me, why I think these things are malevolent, what can I say about everything I have experienced? I am almost sure that are steps to basically colonize our planet or something like that. I think it's kind of obvious to me. Eh, Um,
Well, Valerie, I tend to agree with you. I think if we just want to accept it on face value, which a lot of people are not going to do, and that's fine. But if we were to go the step further and accept it on face value that these things are actually happening to people, they're not figments of the imagination or dreams or hallucinations or some psychological or other explanation, that these things are actually happening to people, I think we actually have to bend over backwards pretty far to make
the,
excuses for any entity that will take us out of our beds at night or from anywhere, from our cars on the side of the road or what have you, against our will. And they actually commit unspeakable acts upon especially women and children, but to males as well. I think we actually have to bend over backwards to make excuses and pretend that this is something that's good for us, although we have many people who do that. In my personal opinion, that's where I get into the psychological explanation, where why would we do that as human beings? Why would we bend over backwards to make excuses for this behavior? I understand it. I've dealt with a lot of, especially domestic violence victims who do make excuses.
My experiences can sum up with 2 points. Number one, according to my experiences, these entities feed from people, not only from abductees, from other people in a different way, energetic feeding, from sexual energy, from devotion, from religion, from many sources, from pain, from adoration, from torture, from many ways of energetic feedings. That is number one. And number two, everything I have seen and I have experienced, and I can give examples or quote stories that are not the stories as the other experiences. No, here are part of my life, episodes of my life, are horrible episodes of my life. According to these horrible episodes of my life, everything these beings are doing points out to be steps to a final ending to their plans. They are very organized. They are definitely more intelligent and advanced as races, as their brains. Their plan is very technical and very symmetrical and very perfect, almost perfect. And it's like the best engineers have done this. So it's not random things. It's if you see what you see, and if you experience what you experience, you see that this is going. This is something like the plan is something like, if we for very advanced intelligence like them, is I think is something like, if we take over a planet or something like this by force, we're going to destroy the natural resources, we're going to kill the people that are part of the things that we are useful for them, for feeding purposes and for other purposes. So that is not good. So we are smarter than that. We take over planets without damaging the resources, without damaging nature, because without damage to the planet, without so it's smarter what they are doing. It's better, it's more efficient. It's a matter of efficiency. If we all devote our life to write the best book about how to conquer a planet, this is the answer. Don't look different. The answer is not to throw bombs to a planet. If you throw bombs to a planet, you're going to destroy what you want to acquire. That is what barbaric races like us would do. Let's throw bombs. No. There are more efficient ways.
I agree with you, Valerie. Okay, let's go ahead and get to Taylor. She might have a question for you. Go ahead, Taylor.
Yeah, I was wondering, I think I heard you say that you met the Greys potentially. I was wondering if those are like, inhabiting android bodies, or if they are manifesting materially and dematerializing. If they are inhabiting android bodies, how do they materialize and dematerialize?
Nothing like that has happened to me. I don't think grays have been inside my body as far as I know. I have seen a gray alien in a sort of dream that I don't know if people who hasn't experienced these things understand what kind of dreams I am talking about. That is not dreams, that are virtual reality scenarios or something like that. I don't know if I can explain this, but I have seen a gray alien inside a ship in front of me performing a physical exam to other human being. That is the only moment in my life that I've been close to a gray being. And I have some sort of experiences with reptilian beings. I have some sort of experience with other type of entities. And I have definitely have experience that I have no doubt that are completely real, that with hybrids. But grace, I think that is the only thing that I have experienced with a gray. The other experience that I have had that are extremely important to me is with the beings that I think that are like higher in the hierarchy of these beings, the grays, the reptilians. No, I have had a couple of experiences with beings made of light that are bad beings, not good beings, like very powerful beings that that experiences are one of the reasons that I think that this is a bad thing. And one of that experiences to um, to share that experiences here in a very quick, in a virtual reality scenario. It presented to me, in front of me, this woman made of light, and she telepathically said to me something like, why do you care about other people? Don't get in the way of us. Something like that. But what you feel when you are in the presence of a being like that is an energy so strong that you know that these beings are in charge, that these beings are the ones, in my opinion, that that are the ones that are behind the grays and behind the reptilians. But that is my answer about gray beings.
Can I ask one more quick question? Did the reptilians ever materialize and dematerialize? And do you think you could kill them?
I have had two experiences with reptilians. My mother has others. The first thing experience I had with reptilians was arriving to my apartment, to my home. I was not living where I am living now. I was living in another city, in another place. I was living by myself. Now I don't live by myself. And I arrived my home. I opened the door, and it's very difficult to explain, but I felt that there was an invisible reptilian there. And I smelled the smell of, that was the day when the cleaning service was performed in my apartment. I was completely sure about that. And I opened the door, and there was this very, very nice smell to lavender. And when I walked some other steps into my home, I was hit with this very strong smell of death, like dead animal smell. And that smell of dead animal was just confined to to um, to to a place in my home, in the middle of a room, of the hall, the entrance hall. the size of a human, the size of a big human. If you step one step to the side, you feel again the lavender smell. I don't know if I explained this, but if I step back, and I did that many times, and there was only there that the smell of dead animal. And after a while, I sat on a couch and I tried to communicate with this thing, and this thing never said to me nothing. And the other thing is that I I don't want to complicate this more, because what I am going to say is going to complicate many people thinking about this. But the other time when I've been in the presence of a reptilian is while doing Kundalini yoga. Yoga is something that I have practiced many times during my life. And for many people, it can open doors. Well, I am completely sure that it has very little to do with my experiences. But I am very careful to do yoga now, because I know that there is something in me, in my genetics, that if I do that kind of practices, so maybe something can happen. And that time this happened, I was meditating in my living room. It was a morning. It was like 11 a.m. morning. Nobody was there, obviously. It was Sunday or Saturday or something, very, very quiet time. And when I was in complete yoga meditation, I'm not very good at yoga, by the way. I'm not a master. I do what I do. I was relaxed, but I know the techniques. I used I think, good technique, uh, eh, techniques that I have used from many years before, many. And my suddenly I see in my mind that I am like in a blue sky. I'm like in a blue sky with some clouds, more or less like when you feel like you are flying. It's a blue sky with clouds, and I felt the presence. After a little time, I was enjoying that kind of flying in my yoga kundalini meditation. But after some time, I felt that something was there, that other being was there, and I felt fear, and I knew inside me that that being that was there was a reptilian being. I don't know what to tell you why I know that was a reptilian being, but I knew that I had to break the trance of my meditation and to return to my normal thing, because it was going to be dangerous if I would make the decision to stay in that mental place, because there was this aggressive, malevolent being there.
Thank you, Valerie. Taylor dropped back down to listener, but I think she probably heard your answer. Hiker Gal, did you have any questions for Valerie?
I didn't, but I just wanted to say, Valerie, you had mentioned earlier that you didn't think that you would be back to, or it'd be a while before you'd be back to speak about your experiences. And I can understand why, because some of them are just so terrible. Let's be honest. But what I would say is, if I would hope that you don't, but I also completely understand. And I just wanted you to know that there are many of us who are not wanting to come forward. And I just wanted to say thank you. And if you never want to come forward again, I can understand, but know that we appreciate you and we will be everyone's voice for those who just can't or won't or too afraid.
Thank you. I have better reasons to not going to not talk about this anymore, because I am really sad about all of this, because I think there is no solution. Because if you listen to my first experience at the first hotel, when this entity, when when the cell phone of this young guy rang and told this guy, you have to do more drugs. For other many other experiences that I have had, I think, or I am almost completely sure, that these malevolent beings are not acting by themselves. They are acting with humans that gave them access to phones, to technology, to money. And what I think that this happens is that, especially the elites of this planet, the mega rich people, like the royalty, European royalty, and that other types of royalty of these planets, are completely aware of this. They have been making their families rich and powerful with this, protecting these beings, and they own television, they own internet, they own everything. They own drug distribution to facilitate these beings to feed. They own maybe police. They own. So we're talking about what can we do about this? Do you want me to do about this? These guys. I've been living this for 8 years. I have tried every. Nobody believes it. Nobody cares on the internet. Maybe I don't know. If you see other people talking about this, I think unfortunately, very little people watch the videos or believe in what people say. No, so that is the reason I don't think I'm going to do anything else, because I think that there is no point. We are fighting with what? With the royal family of the Britons. What can I do about that?
I think what you're doing right now is what needs to be done. But I understand. It's
That is the reason I did it.
yes, I'm just saying that regardless, we support you, but there are still people here that will also tell everyone else's story. That's all I'm saying, is that you have support here.
No, and I hope that this has helped someone. By the way, when this started 8 years ago, I had a lot of problems to sleep. I have seen some more videos of Fringe, and I see, Fringe, that you are now going through that. And my advice, I have an advice, but because now I am sleeping again normal, I am sleeping very well. And what I did was like what I just said a few minutes ago. I understood that it's not my job to save this world. It's everyone's job. I was 8 years ago when this started. I was like, with all my energy, I need to do something, because our planet is about to be taken by these beings. we are going to be a colony of these monsters. But I think during the time I have thought that I am not responsible for stopping these beings. There are many bad humans that have made themselves extremely mega rich, that are living in Monte Carlo, Luxembourg, with great richness and great power by doing alliance pacts with these interdimensional demons or beings that if you help them, they give you secrets, they give you power, they give you technology to these families. So there's nothing I can do. So now after some time I sleep better about that. There's nothing I can do. And recently I have had not much like telepathical contact with them or virtual reality scenarios. For some reasons I don't have them recently. I have other experiences. But I think the key to sleep better is to think that you guys, the other guys that are living this, is not our job.
Thank you, Valerie. So if you're entertaining questions, I do have a question for you. This very first experience you spoke about with the gentleman who answered the telephone.
Yes.
What made you believe that was an entity on the other end of the line?
The voice, I think it's a little even funny because I don't I don't it's like a bad movie, right? The voice was mechanically like robot voice. I don't want to try to imitate or to repeat the voice because it's going to be hilarious. It's going to be ridiculous. Because but it was like an old robot voice. And I knew what this thing was doing. This I think to I want you to understand better this French. I see you're interested. I think it was not a human using this voice. I think it was an demonic entity using a mechanical voice talking to a drug addict to, to tell him you need to be more on drugs, you need to be almost passed out for me to feed from you.
Thanks. And I absolutely understand where you're going with that. It just sounds very MK Ultra to me. It sounds very human. It sounds like a very human thing. And that doesn't mean that it was a human.
Maybe it was a human, maybe it was an entity. It's very interesting. I can talk about hours about that thing. I don't what I only know is that it was a mechanical voice and that the guy was doing soft drugs before this, and that entity or that voice made him like do pills or heavier drugs, to be able to fit. After that, he passed out in his bed and he had convulsions. He convulsed. So I witnessed that thing feeding from him. I have no doubt. I have seen other persons in drugs, especially when I was younger. I that was not the first time that I saw a drug addict or a person doing drugs.
And then were you able to speak to this gentleman the next day or
Yes, of course, of course.
What did he have to say? What was his perspective?
I was in this hotel. I don't want to give exactly the details because if you want to talk longer about this for everyone speaking here, you are only listening to a 10% of this experience. I think French understands this. But I have seen in my life stuff that I know that there are many people interested in what we are saying this. Now, police, intelligence agencies, the royal families, criminal organizations. So I am not going to say details, but it was European country, and in that country, in that hotel, I stayed like 7 days or 8 days or something like that. So of course I talked a little, many times more with that guy. That guy ended up being more or less my friend, because when I left that hotel, after many days, I visited other countries, but at some point I returned to that country, to the country where I met this guy, and I came across this guy in the street, and he bought me a coffee. We talked there. So of course I talked with that guy a little bit more, and I have more details. He's not a complete stranger. I more or less know how he thinks, where he comes from, what was the context. But I think it's not very important, because these guys are doing this all over the world. Why do you guys think the world is full of drugs and nobody knows, nobody can stop them? Nobody can stop them, because there are many people interested that this thing keeps going and going and going and going and going and going and going.
Well, I agree with that. So, did this gentleman, what was his perspective on what happened? Did he remember receiving a phone call? Did he remember digging through his suitcase?
I completely don't know, because this guy was, I, as far as I understand, with my age and my life experiences, when a person have a life like that, like drug addiction, he has a complicated life, or he or she has a complicated life. So in my experiences, these persons are a little bit, sometimes they lie, sometimes they are not telling you the truth. So I don't know exactly what to say about this guy. I think he's a good guy. He's a good person, but he has a very heavy drug problem. But I, I don't know what else to say about him. He was like mysterious guy. I don't know what is real or what is not about things that he told me.
Are you able to say what he told you about that night, or do you want to skip over that?
No, 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 no. I was a little bit afraid of that guy, because, as I said before, I was not in my country. I was traveling by myself alone, and this guy was um like, in my, according to my life experience, when a person has a drug problem and you see that he's having drug problem, maybe has problem with police, or maybe I don't make friends easily with persons like that. So I don't I I I hadn't deep conversations. I had not deep philosophical conversations with this guy, like normal conversations.
Okay, thanks. And then on your second experience, what would you say to someone who might ask, well, this woman that you're speaking about, maybe she just has a different culture, with her keeping her fruit and the noises and all the kind of things that you came across. What would you say to that? That she was maybe just a little different and you didn't have a full understanding?
I don't have a clear answer about that. I don't think I am able to convince anyone that this woman was a hybrid.
Yeah, fair enough.
I
Um,
think that the most weird thing that I saw about her is the way she slept, and that from time to time she she made a noise like insect noise that I don't want to repeat here. It's going to be funny. It's going to be absurd, like a giant cricket. more or less the same thing of the being that was talking on the phone with the other guy. These hybrids or these entities, I think they have something with their voices, or that is the thing that is not working completely well, at least right now, and they make some noises that are completely different or something like that.
Thanks, Valerie. And what do we have, Hiker Gal? We've got a little bit longer that we're going to be going.
About 30 minutes.
Okay, awesome. So we'll end in 30 minutes or sooner. If anyone wants to come up and ask Valerie or me or Hiker Gal any questions. Valerie, I wanted to ask you, you mentioned that your mom has some horrible experiences that we don't have to revisit. Have you or your mom had any physical effects from your experiences?
Yes, of course, of course. Uh, my mother experiences are like a complete world to talk about, and my experiences also. Um, I think about her, what I can say. Oh, this is going to sound completely insane, but obviously, I think those who have read Carla Turner and stuff like that, or David Jacobs, more or less have a context. Uh, when my mother was pregnant of me, there was different sorts of intervention of these beings, right? Like her experiences are about that in the in in ways that I don't want to go into detail. But her experiences are about pregnancy, are about me, are about stuff like that. Um, about me, I have uh, during 8 years ago, I was like in the period of my life when I usually I saw in the sky UFOs very frequently, like many other abductees in many situations. Many I can talk and talk and talk and talk and talk about it. And after witnessing a UFO, usually that night I used to have dreams or virtual reality scenarios or weird dreams or whatever we all want to call them. After many of that dreams, I have had many marks in my body that, as many others, we are completely sure that are marks of aliens, abductions, especially geometrical marks on my forearm. I think the word in English is forearm, like not far from my wrist, more or less triangular shape or diamond shape or rhomboid shape, and very common a mark in the middle of my chest and in the back of my spine, like behind my neck. Marks of punctures with blood. They I usually find them with the blood stains on my clothes. But by themselves, they can be nothing. But all of these marks has been after witnessing very clear sightings of UFOs. And after that, after having a quote dream, like other experiences know what kind of dreams are that. Dreams that where you dream that I had this dream, like, to give a little bit of context. One of those dreams was I was outside my house, and there was these two gray beings, gray aliens. They were standing by the side of a jeep like military jeep vehicle. And on the top of my house there was a rocket. And in that virtual reality scenario slash dreams, these gray beings telepathically tells me again, your family and you are going to be okay. And they show me like a video or a picture of my family inside my house, laughing, having a good time on a Sunday. My father, my mother, my brothers, and they tell me, you see, your family is going to be okay. Why you get in the way of all of this? Don't do that. Don't mess with our plans and everything is going to be okay. And after stuff like that, people like us wake up the next day with marks in their bodies. What do you want me to think about that marks?
Well, Valerie, I mean, there is pushback on the marks that we get, and understandably so. You know, we have a lot of people who spend a lot of time coming up with different explanations, and you know, some of those explanations might be valid in some cases, and in other cases, they might not be valid. So, this is. Do you have any photographs of these injuries, especially the
Sure.
geometric shapes, and are you willing to share those with the group
No,
privately
of
or?
course not. But
Okay.
no, but I think the most interesting photograph that I have is photographs of UFO sightings where other people with me, friends or coworkers, they have told me, "Hey, look at your window. There are UFOs outside your window. Clear daylight UFOs." So that kind of experiences make me think like it's not my imagination. I am not crazy. I don't have a psychiatric problem because other people different than me have told me there are UFOs outside your windows, and we have taken video and photograph of these objects outside my window. And I am completely sure because they are metallical disc, more or less shape craft, completely static on blue sky. Impossible to be helicopter, impossible to be airplanes, impossible to be balloons, and and during the time when a person like us is having these virtual reality scenarios, it's not coincidence. If you tell me I am a normal person, maybe they were balloons, but they were not balloons when you are seeing the things I have seen. I don't think it's coincidence. But yes, I have pictures of UFOs and from marks and on my body.
And then Valerie, again, stop me anytime. I'm just making conversation. I know people are interested in certain things when it comes to abductees, and feel free not to answer. Have you spoken to any other family members this might be happening to you besides your mother?
No, absolutely not. And I am kind of feel more or less with the conditions to talk about this here today because as I think as it's obvious, this Twitter X account is basically not mine, it's not my name, nobody knows who I am. It's basically a one-time anonymous situation. My name is not Valerie, obviously. And um, so yes, no, my mother, I think, is the only person. I have like uh, talked like soft stuff with some persons in some situation during these years about UFOs and about alien abductions in general, but not about my personal experiences. And every time I have done that, I have found that people just think that people like us or we are crazy, they do not believe it, or they think that we are finding a way to make profit or money about this or something like that. So I think the best thing I can do in my case is precisely if I want to contribute this for other people like Fringe, like maybe other people in this chat, that people that want to fight this, that people who wants to make a difference, to make other people listen to, is precisely this is what I have to do, is to use this unique situation to be completely anonymous, no gain, no money. I'm not going to earn anything and say everything that has, or almost the most important things that had happened to me. And those who believed it, that's fine. And those who don't believe it, they have their reasons, or they are not ready for this, or they can't believe this. Maybe if this hasn't happened in my life 8 years ago, an other person came to me to tell me there are people who are abducted by aliens, I was going to think this guy or is a scammer or is a crazy person. So I completely understand.
Yeah, I think we all understand, Valerie, that this is the stuff of science fiction, and the things we talk about, especially in this particular space with me and Hiker Gal, are things that are very, very difficult to believe and understand unless it's happened to you or someone really close. Even if it's someone really close, it would be difficult. I think it actually has to
Other other
happen.
important thing that I would like to say to you, French, especially because I have seen like 3 or 4 of your videos, and I think you are living this experience for real, and this is the most intense moment of that situation. I think is that, in my opinion, these beings are not very interested in my mother, in you, in me. Don't be afraid. Don't worry too much about this. We are not important for these guys. They for these guys are very intelligent. They are very logical. They are very pragmatic. They don't want me. They don't want my mother. They don't want you. In my opinion, they don't want other abductees. Blah blah blah. No, no, no. They want to exploit a complete planet to maybe feed their entire species. And they want to take over our planet. They are not here to destroy your life or to make your life a hell of individual person. So I don't care. Nowadays, I don't care. Because sometimes those who have lived this experience, like you, like me, like other abductees, we are afraid that these beings are here to destroy my life, or what I'm going to do. Don't do anything. Do nothing. They are not, the reason they are here is not you, it's not me, it's not my mother. They want something of much more value. They want our planet.
And then Valerie, then why do you think that they're messing with us at all? If they want the planet, what do you think the plan is there?
We are part of their plan. Um, like, I think, how to explain this? Hybrids are important for them. They are like, uh, I think the game chess is a good example. Hybrids are like the horse, like the rook, like the bishop. Abductees, we are pawn.
Interesting. Okay, well, thank you. Hiker Gal, if you have anything for Valerie, or Valerie, is there any last words you want to give to the group? Is there anything you think that it's important for the group to know? People who are listening to you right now? Hiker Gal, if Valerie is speaking, I cannot hear.
I can't hear either.
Hey, I am here. I am still here.
Okay, you don't have to answer that, or maybe you're...
No, sorry. I think I missed the question.
Okay, I'm just wondering, since we're winding down with your story, if there's anything you want the group to know. Anybody in this room, what's the most important information, do you think?
Well, I think I have a very clear idea of what is happening, in my opinion. The funny thing is that these beings are truly masters of making these plans where nobody can know for sure what they are doing. So like the military or like the police forces, like everything is in the shadows. So uh, uh, so the bad thing is that I in that conditions I can't say for sure that what they are doing is what I am going to say. But I swear of God that according to my experiences, my best guess of a person who have lived these experiences, like the 8th woman inside Carla Turner book, Taken, like Fringe, like very other few people that I have came across on the internet, I think that their experiences are real. My sincere answer of what these beings are doing in our planet, well, is what I said some minutes ago, a while ago. What they are doing is that is an inefficient form to take over a planet, to drop the bombs. The efficient way is to make pacts with the rich and powerful people. It's easier because they have control to politics, religions, beliefs, money, resources, and trade. What do you want? Technology. I have other experiences, very interesting experiences that make me think this, that maybe, I don't know. I don't think I'm going to share them at this point, but I think what they are doing is that, and during that process, these things fit from people, especially people who can, who are with the conditions to be inhabited by these beings, by by drugs, by special states of mind and stuff. In the process, they are feeding from us. But I think that is what is happening. I don't know what else I can say about that. But unfortunately, I think that is what is happening. And at some point, maybe this planet is going to reach a conclusion or an end.
And have the beings given you any information whatsoever, or are these mostly your conclusions just based on
No,
experience?
of course, definitely yes. It's longer than than we can explain here. But I for what I have read with other cases like David Jacobs and your case, I'm not sure of what these beings have told me. It's important, or if it are lies, because it's very common. Other thing that I want to say is that the second message that I sent to you, Fringe, as you remember, is because uh, my family heritage it's from the Basque country, and you said in one of your videos that you too. I don't want to enter in details because of my family, because I don't want to be easy to spot. But if someone is interested in that topic, of course, me and my mother, we have absolutely no doubt because of one of our last names that our family comes from the Basque country, where, as maybe today almost everyone knows, most of the people has RH negative blood type. So if someone is interested in that part of the story, I think these entities are using bloodlines. And it's very common that abductees especially come from that place.
Very interesting. Well, thank you, Valerie. I really appreciate that you jumped up today. And I'm going to get to Hiker Gal and see if she has any other questions and if you have any last statements before we close it out. Actually, Hiker Gal, there was one other question. Somebody asked a question that I don't think we ever answered, and we can get back to that as soon as we wrap up Valerie. And did I just lose you, Hiker Gal? I just lost her.
Yes,
So, yeah, we lost her. She'll be back.
I see she disappeared.
It's just temporary. These spaces get a little glitchy, and I still really love them because there's no other technology out there that I'm aware of that gives us this town square feel where we can all just get together from all around the world and ask each other questions and tell our stories and things. So I'm very appreciative of the platform. And thank you again, Valerie, for coming up. We hope to see you again someday. If we don't, that's okay.
I don't think so. It was very exciting. I never thought that I would ever going to do this, but it was not for everyone. Basically, I did this to share my story with you, Fringe, because we only had exchanged a few messages, and I am completely sure that what you have experienced is completely real. It's 99% similar to what I have lived during these 8 years. So I think I wanted to add my 2 cents to all of this. Or maybe I think maybe I don't know, but I think you are trying to make the difference and you are trying to spread the word. So maybe I was trying to give these elements to you.
Well, thank you for that. I really appreciate it. And I think, so from my own perspective, I also had, a lot of experiences, and I was completely unaware of the abduction research. I had never heard of someone by the name of Carla Turner. I had never heard of David Jacobs. I was completely, yeah, I was totally unaware of some of the things that were happening. Well, I'd say the majority of the things that were happening to people. And people can call it confirmation bias, and I'm totally fine with that. But when I read about something that happened to me, very specific things, very obscure things, and then I read in the abduction research these things, very exact same things are happening to other people, really bending over backwards for an explanation. So now we're going to say, I don't know, I think one of the ones I've heard is, well, it's just the collective conscious.
No. One important thing before I go, I think people who remember the abductions and the dreams and stuff like that, like you, like me, to explain that to you, I think that these entities, reptilians, greys, beings made of light, mantis beings, etc., these beings are so advanced that they are successful 99.999999999% of every time to delete from the memories of the human what happened to them. So the reason is going to be very difficult for you to find other person like you and me is not because there is no other people. It is because these beings are very effective and very efficient to completely delete from the mind of many hundreds or thousands or millions of people what they are doing. That is the reason you only see you and you only see me and maybe other people.
And I tend to agree with that, Valerie. So I think because of what happened to me, not only did I have my own personal experiences, not only was I becoming completely 100% conscious during some of these experiences, and there were a lot of puzzle pieces coming together for me. When I then came across the abduction research with some obscure things like that are just things that I think your average everyday person just wouldn't make up. I'm now reading it in the abduction research. And so again, could it be just a confirmation bias? Is this a collective consciousness?
No,
Why are these very similar things happening to people all around the globe? Very similar stories.
it's something completely real. These entities live in not in another planet. These entities live in other dimensions.
And I tend to agree with that as well. So again, oh, you're going to get some noise from my dog's little toy. I don't know if you can hear it. Again, when we have to start actually bending over backwards to make excuses or to find other reasons for things rather than just taking it at face value and putting puzzle pieces together and seeing what we come up with, I'm gonna go for the simplest explanation, and that is this is actually happening to tens of thousands of people across the world in all different types of cultures and religions and various levels of access to information. Eric Mitchell has spoken to people in tribes that have no internet, no information. There's no literature on it. And yet here we are coming up with the same type of things. The things that were happening to me as a child, we had no internet. There was no way for me to just make up something in my own head and then after, reading about it somewhere. So I think it's important when people like us get together and just kind of throw in our 2 cents in our stories. And, hopefully at least people in this room will just try to keep an open mind that this stuff is actually happening.
And the thing that is super sad is that at this point of my life, 8 years after my first contact with these beings, I think it's very normal for them, like to use the trade. I give you one thing and you give me one thing in return. I think they have been doing this for thousands of years, maybe, and it's something super sad. So I think I don't know what we can do to 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 survive this, because it's a very efficient system. I think that they have done this with very, like I said before, like with the royal families, like give me access to people I can feed from in a religious way, energetic way, human sacrifices, maybe sexual stuff, maybe. And in exchange, I can give you, I can tell you about the future. I can tell you what is the next technology, what is going to be the next song that is going to be a hit on the radio. For these beings, there are things that we know that they can do because we have seen it. That for some people, for many people, it's magic or it's something that it's impossible. But we don't know what is possible or what is impossible or technologically possible for more advances races. And unfortunately, these races seems to be very good with commerce, like exchanging one thing for the other. So this problem is a very bad problem, because these guys are very good. These species or these entities or these demons or whatever you want to call them, they have been very good with the trade thing for thousands and thousands of years, and we don't know how big they have achieved that I'm going to exchange you with power and money. Your offspring is going to be princes, kings, but in exchange you need to I'm going to tell you how to build a religion so they can, so many humans can make pray for me, make adoration for me, and so these beings are feeding, maybe we're feeding entire planets or entire races with that.
Entirely possible, Valerie. So it seems we've lost Hiker Gal. She did have to take a phone call, and we are nearing the time that we were going to wrap it up. I also have my dog's toy going absolutely wild in the background. Hopefully nobody can hear it. But Valerie, I just wanted to say thank you again for finding the courage to come up and tell your story. I think it's a great way to wrap up the space. And if you ever decide to pop back in again, please feel free. If not, maybe you'll listen. I think I just want to say thank you for contributing to your story today and for helping other people feel comfortable about coming forward and talking about the crazy things we talk about in this space. So thank you very much, Valerie. I appreciate it.
Thanks to you. It was my pleasure. And I am a big fan of yours. I think you are doing something very important, something very good. You are some sort of hero, so like unheard hero, or maybe the Joan of Arc of today, like Carla Turner was addressed at their moment. So I think you are doing something very brave, something very important, and I wish you the best of luck with that. And my prayers will be with you, Miss Fringe.
Thank you so much, Valerie. I really appreciate your kind words. And just being in the same sentence as Carla Turner, of course, is incredibly flattering, and I very much appreciate that. And I'm going to sign off for myself and for Hiker Gal. She's not going to be rejoining us. And again, thank you, Valerie. Thank you to everyone who came up and told a story, everyone who asked a question, and everyone who listened today. And I'll be signing off for now. Hiker Gal and I do a couple of these a month. Just so we can get our crazy talk out. It's a place where we can pretty much say whatever we want and talk about our own experiences without being judged ourselves. And we also have that space coming up with Heidi Hollis, where we're going to talk about shadow people, and Nathaniel Gillis, who's going to talk about shadow people and demons and aliens and all kinds of stuff. So you can look for those. And thank you again, Valerie, and to everyone who joined in today. I appreciate you.
Good luck, everyone. Was my pleasure.